back to another grilling video, and today we are going to be doing something awesome. We're going to be doing smoked oxtail stew. It is going to be phenomenal. Now, it takes a little while. Prepare for 2.5 to 3 hours for this one. Not a lot of work, but you got to let those oxtails just braise until they're nice and tender. But we're going to smoke them first, give them some amazing flavor. Let's start by prepping the vegetables, and here's what we'll need. All right, the veggies are pretty simple for this one. We want to do some type of a trinity. Now, most people are going to use onions, celery, and carrots. I actually like to do mine a little different. I'm going to be using onions, a little bit of garlic, certainly some carrots, but instead of celery, I'm going to be using radishes. It leaves it a bit of an interesting taste. I like it. If you don't, by all means, use pepper in yours. You just want whatever kind of vegetable trinity makes the most sense for you. Now, typical Caribbean is going to be carrots, onions, and peppers. We're doing carrots, onions, and radishes. Interesting for sure. And we want to slice them fairly thin because we really want these to sort of soften up and almost turn to a paste, when they've finished cooking. Now, we're only making about 1.5 to 2 pounds of oxtail, so I'm just going to use 2 carrots, about 6 radishes, and a large onion, and about 4 cloves of garlic. That's all I'm going to use for this. Feel free to adjust it a little bit if you're making more. For example, this takes a while, so if you're making it for a group of people, it's best to do 4, 5, 6 pounds of oxtail. And I'll tell you a little hint. Find a local Caribbean or a local Latin market. And a lot of times, if you go back to the meat section, they will have entire oxtails and they'll slice them to whatever thickness you want. I like mine a good 1.5 inches thick, and that's what I asked them to cut for me today. Those are in the fridge. We'll show you how to prep those in a little bit. We'll start with one of our carrots here. We're just gonna go ahead and cut the end of this guy off, and you'll see, mine was about to start growing on me here. We wanna start this by slicing this long ways. By the way, a sharp knife really helps when you do this. Dull knives are dangerous, so be careful. For the record, most of mine are dull, so I'm always pretty careful. Now, these are a little bit too big, so I want to probably cut these in, I'll say 3 sections. That'll give me a good size for my trinity here. And we just want to start cutting these in about 1/4 inch thick slices. Now remember, this is going to cook for several hours, so these things are going to get soft. But if you like them to be really mushy, keep the size fairly small. With that, we're just going to put these into a little container here for this, holding them until we're ready to cook them. All right, next thing we're going to do here is we're going to slice up our onions. We want to chunk these. So again, I'm going to cut them in one direction, and then I'm going to cut them in the other. Now the onions are going to soften up way quicker than the carrots, so they can be a little thicker. That's fine. We're just going to cut these in both directions. As long as these are going to cook, they're going to get pretty soft, so I'm not too worried about getting them small, but maybe a little smaller than or the size of the carrots. And if you see any long ones, just break them up. I know, if this was a real cooking show, these would be separated and it'd be a nice little orange section and white section, but this ain't. This is me. All right, so I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to slice this right up to the root, like this. You can cut them either way, and then when I slice them now, they will already be cut up and ready to go into our bowl. Whatever way works better for you, feel free. Now here's the non-traditional item. I actually have radishes. Now, I know this is not your normal trinity that goes into most foods, but I love the flavor of radishes, and I think they give oxtail a really interesting flavor when this is all stewed down. So, we're gonna go ahead and do, I don't know, a 6 or 8 of these things. Looks like I have 6 of them here. That's what we'll do. And I'm doing this in place of green peppers. Now, certainly you can do green peppers instead. That would be traditional, and that is delicious, and that's the way I normally make it. But I also like it this way too. Figured I'd show you guys how to go about doing this. Now, just like the onions, we're going to cut these into about 3 thicknesses for each one, and then we're going to slice them along this way long ways, and then we're going to do the same in the other direction, cut them all in half we're going to cut them in half that size as well. And that gives us a nice size piece of radish to go in our dish.
Over here. Yeah, right here. Hey, do me a favor. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell notification so you get notified of new videos. Thanks.
All right, get all of our radishes in there. We're doing radishes instead of peppers this time, and that is unique. I really suggest you give it a try. You will probably love it. All right, we're just going to take these and chop them up a little bit. Again, I don't really care about the exact size of these. I'm just going to try to get them fairly small so they incorporate well all throughout our oxtail when they're braising. Get this all into our giant pan here. This will be all ready now when we prep our oxtails. So first things first, let's talk about oxtail. Where do you get it? How do you buy it? If you go to your local grocery store, Winn-Dixie, Kroger, whatever's in your part of the country, I'll tell you, it's not probably the best place to get oxtail. One, you're going to pay $12 or $13 a pound. That's what it's going for right now in August of 2022. If you find yourself a nice Latin or Caribbean market, go to the meat market section. Ask if they have oxtail there. Oftentimes they have the entire tail. You can ask them to cut it any way you want. Now I like mine to be cut about 1.5 inches thick. To me, that's just the right size. I've cleaned all these real well in nice ice cold water, and I've taken a lime and I've rubbed the outside of them. I think the acid from the lime just helps kill any bacteria that may be on them. That's the way I prepare them. I've got about 1.5 pounds of oxtail here. So what we're going to do is we're going to dry these off, take them out of the water, and we're going to coat them in both this adobe flavoring and slap ya mama. I really like those two flavors, and I've got the smoker at 180 degrees. We're going to pop them right on there. We're going to do a little bit of salt on each of these. Now I'm using a nice coarse rock salt. I'm just going to flip this over. Again, I had these cut to about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. That's the size I like to do on these. It's okay if you over season a little bit on the outside. Remember, these are thick, so it's okay to do that. Next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of this adobo. Now I like to get a nice thick seasoning on here of this and really coat these thick. And we go in with some slap ya mama. If you haven't had slap ya mamas, it is good. It's got a little bit of a kick to it, just a delicious seasoning. And that's it. Let's flip these over and do the other side. Now, just like the first side, we're going to go ahead and get quite a bit of this adobo on here. You just want to pat that in. And I'm going on with some of this slap ya mamas too. Now, one thing about oxtail, especially when they're like this, they're nice and thick, you got a lot of area to season on the sides. So go ahead and do that as well. Especially for this section where we put them in the smoker. We're not looking to get a bark on them because frankly we're going to end up braising these anyway. But this gives us a delicious flavor to these guys. Little adobo on here as well. Now with our smoker right at 225 degrees, we're just going to place these right along the edges. We don't want them right over the firebox. We're going to get them a little too hot if we do that. With this at about 225 degrees, we're just going to close this up. We're going to let these smoke for about 30 to 45 minutes. We want to wait until we get a nice little bark on the outside, and 225 degrees is going to take at least that long. All right, these are looking phenomenal. They've been in here about 45 minutes. They've got a nice crust on them. It is time to go ahead and start potting all this up and getting it ready. So I'm going to start with a large aluminum pot here. I want to get this thing kicked on. All right, got it. And now we're going to go ahead and add in some of our vegetables to start this browning. Now I've got my pan on over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and add in my vegetables. If you remember, we did onions, carrots, and radishes instead of bell pepper. Unique, different, but I like it. Let's just go ahead and let these get kicked off. They'll start to soften up just a little bit. I add a little bit of butter or a little oil in there. That's all you need. And to this, I'm going to add a little bit of slap ya mama. This is the same stuff we put on the outside of the oxtail. And then we'll do the same with the adobo seasoning. Now keep this low, it tends to blow around, it's pretty lightweight. That's quite a bit, but remember, we're gonna have some liquid in here as well. That smells phenomenal. Leave that in a single layer. We want to get these softened up a little bit before we add our liquid. All right, these are looking real nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a little tomato paste. This will help give it a nice richness to it. I'm going to do about 2 or 3 tablespoons of that. There we go. And we're just going to add in a little bit of liquid here. This is just water. You could use beef stock as well, but we have enough flavor. We don't necessarily have to do beef stock here. I only added a little bit because I want to get this mixed in real nice. This tomato paste is going to thicken this up a little bit. I've just let that tomato paste cook down just a little bit. It smells so rich. It smells great. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add in our oxtail right to this, and then we're going to go ahead and pour in some beef stock on top of that. I'm just using a mix that you mix with water. It's simple enough, like a bouillon cube, or you can use actual stock. This is going to get a ton of flavor because it's going to braise with those actual oxtails. You know, fancy way of saying cowtail, but this is going to be good stuff. All right, we're just going to take our oxtails and get these guys set right down in here. Now we're just going to add that beef stock right on into that. Probably add just a little bit more here. So we're just going to leave this covered. I'm going to leave it open about a crack here because we need to get that up to temperature. I probably have this flame too high. We'll turn it down in just a little while. And I'm hoping I don't end up with this thunderstorm that looks like it's coming. So I think I'm going to roll these awnings in and hope that the side of the house is enough to keep this thing covered. I'll do the same with this one. Hopefully it was just a bit of a thunder boomer off in the distance and we don't end up with a thunderstorm. All right, I've got this turned down a little bit. We'll see how it does. I'll be back here about every 30 minutes to check it. I probably will just show you when we're near the end. I'm essentially gonna get it to a simmer and I'm gonna let it simmer for a couple of hours until that is just fork tender. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, this has been on almost 3 hours now and it is looking amazing. There's a nice dark color to it. Let me show you this up close. Look at that. This is exactly what we want. You see how tender that is? The meat's just coming apart. And it's nice and brown. We added a little bit of browning sauce. You can also just do that with a little brown sugar and butter. And we've been boiling it for a little bit just to get the contents of the liquid down just a bit. Look at all those delicious vegetables. Let's get ready to serve this up. Got a delicious bit of rice right here. I'm going to put one of these on there. On there as well, and we'll get a little bit of this veg here also. I want to get some of this sauce in there too. That is some kind of good. And with that, we have a wonderful smoked Jamaican oxtail. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I'll zoom in. This meat is just tender as can be. It just falls apart. It really looks phenomenal. Look how tender that is, just coming right off of there. Man, does that look good. Got our carrots there. You can even see our little pieces of radish right here. This is why I like going to a place where they can cut the oxtail the way you want. That's a nice thick piece right there. Look at that. So you know what time it is, right? it is time to taste this. Now, before I have a bite of everything, I'm just going to have a nice little bite of just the oxtail. My gosh, that is delicious. It's got a nice rich beef stock, and I really like the taste of all the seasonings on it. Perfectly tender, just delicious. All right, a little jasmine rice below this, some veggies, away we go. Man, that is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. I didn't bring a spoon out here, otherwise I'd have spooned some more of that nice rich gravy over the top of this. It's very beefy tasting. It tastes really good. Reducing that liquid down to a smaller amount increases the flavor tremendously. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a good old smoked Jamaican oxtail, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Start these things for about 45 minutes to an hour on the smoker. Finish them off in the braising liquid. All right, y'all. I'm going to enjoy some Jamaican oxtail. Bye, y'all. Safe and happy grilling. We'll see you next week. Bye now.